Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Today, we are opening a file on a player whose career has, well, it's officially spanned 3 different decades, which is a feat in itself. But we aren't just looking at longevity today. We are looking at a walking contradiction.
That's really the only way you can put it. I mean, we're talking about an athlete who gets nicknamed Iron Man, a guy who played, 447 consecutive games. Yet he ends his career, or at least the tail end of it, with a suspension for performance-enhancing drugs.
Right, and a player who was so disciplined, so meticulous, that he switched his dominant shooting hand in the middle of his NBA career. A mechanic almost no one, and I mean no one, touches once they turn pro. Yet at the same time, his personal life became a synonym for chaos and tabloid fodder.
The stack of sources we have today it's massive. We've got everything from the early biographical data, from his days up in Brampton. We've got the advanced analytics from his time with the Cavaliers, which tell a really interesting story. And then you have the court documents from the personal lawsuits and, of course, the medical reports detailing the suspension. It's a lot to unpack.
So our mission is to synthesize all of this. We really want to understand how Tristan Thompson, who was, at the time, the highest drafted Canadian in NBA history, how he navigated a 13-plus year career with a very let's say, limited offensive skill set. How does a guy who, for all intents and purposes, can't shoot, become indispensable? How does he win a championship, earn hundreds of millions of dollars, and then just watch his reputation take such a bizarre turn right at the finish line?
It's a fascinating case study on value. I mean, what does the NBA truly value? It's availability.
Yeah.
And then what is the public value? That's narrative. And his career is this collision between those two things.
Okay, so let's get into it. Section 1, the Brampton origin. We are going all the way back to March 13th, 1991. Tristan Trevor James Thompson is born in Brampton, Ontario. Now, for you listening who might not be totally up on the geography of hoops, Brampton today is known as a veritable factory for basketball talent. It's a hotbed, but in 1991, not so much.
Not at all. And that context is so important. Canadian basketball at that time, I mean, Brampton is churning out talent now, right? But back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the path to the NBA wasn't just, not paved. It was barely a dirt road. Thompson was born to Jamaican parents, Trevor and Andrea. He was the eldest of 4 sons. And the athletic lineage was definitely there. His younger brother, Deshaun, was also a highly rated prospect coming up. So talent was in the blood.
But staying in Canada wasn't really a viable option if you had dreams of being a lottery pick back then, was it? You couldn't just play at your local high school and expect, I don't know, Duke or Kentucky to come knocking on your door in Brampton?
No, absolutely not. There was this talent drain happening, a migration, really. If you wanted the exposure, if you wanted to play against the best, you had to go south. So Thompson starts at St. Marguerite Duville for grades 9 and 10. But he and his family knew that to get on the big stage, he needed more eyes on him, which is why he transfers to St. Benedict's Prep in Newark, New Jersey for his sophomore year.
Wow. That is a culture shock. Going from Brampton to Newark, that's not just jumping into the deep end, that's jumping into the ocean.
It's a huge leap. But it was seen as necessary for the competition. He actually went there with another Canadian talent, Mambo Kabongo, who would later also go on to play at Texas with him. And for a while, it worked perfectly. I mean, Thompson's stock just soared. He shot up the rankings. By the time he entered his junior season, he wasn't just some good Canadian prospect. He was being talked about as the top recruit in the entire nation.
Well, #1 recruit in the country. That is rarefied air. And that brings us to a really, really critical moment in his development, a personality indicator, the Dan Hurley incident. Now, Dan Hurley is a massive name in coaching now, right? Fresh off those UConn championships. And he's known for being, let's call it, intense.
Intense is, putting it mildly.
Yeah.
Dan Hurley demands absolute submission to his system. He is fiery, he is loud, and he is right in your face. There's no gray area. So it's Thompson's junior year. St. Benedict's is playing Mater Dei. And you have to understand, Mater Dei was the #1 ranked team in the country at the time. This is a heavyweight fight on a national stage.
So the lights are bright, the pressure is on, every scout is watching this game.
Everyone. And during a timeout, things just go sideways. Hurley and Thompson get into it.
And this wasn't just a simple disagreement about a play call, was it? Our sources describe something more?
Oh, no. This was way beyond that. The reports describe a heated debate. Voices were raised. It was a full-blown confrontation. And, usually a coach might bench a player for a few minutes to cool off, send a message. Hurley didn't bench him.
What do you do?
He kicked him off the court.
Mid-game, in the biggest game of the year.
Mid-game. In front of everyone. Thompson was removed from the team, right then and there. Done.
That is such a high-risk maneuver for a coach, kicking out the #1 recruit in the nation. But it also speaks volumes about Thompson's personality. For better or for worse, he clearly didn't back down.
He didn't. And that moment, it could have derailed his whole career. A lot of kids would have crumbled under that. Or, they'd get labeled uncoachable, and that tag can be a death sentence. But instead, he transfers. He lands at Findlay Prep in Nevada. And this is where the narrative shifts from trouble to winner. He teams up with his childhood friend from Canada, Khloé Joseph.
The Canadian connection. It stays strong through his whole journey.
It really does. And the redemption arc was immediate. Under coach Michael Peck at Findlay, he just flourished. He leads them to their first ever national championship. And he racks up the accolades. He becomes a McDonald's All-American. And at that time, you have to remember how big a deal that was for a Canadian. He was only the 4th one ever to get that honor. He was joining names like Bill Wennington and Barry and Bickett.
So it solidified that he was the real deal. He wasn't just hype. He had the substance to back it up.
Exactly. And he was also a Jordan Brand Classic All-American.
Yeah.
He basically proved that the issue at St. Benedict's might have been more about that specific environment or, that specific clash of two very strong personalities, not a fundamental flaw in him as a player.
Okay, so he's redeemed himself. He heads to the University of Texas. Section 2. And this is interesting because initially all the reports said he wasn't planning to be a one-and-done player.
Right. He flat out told the media after the NCAA tournament that he planned to return for his sophomore year. He said he wanted to develop his game more, but the production during his freshman year was it was undeniable. He was named the Big 12 Freshman of the Year. He had 86 blocks, which was huge, led the team in rebounding, double-doubles. He just looked like a pro already, physically.
So what are the NBA scouts seeing at this point? Because if you look back at the tape from Texas, he's a bit undersized for a traditional center. He's listed at 6'9", and he doesn't have a jump shot to save his life. It's just not there.
No, it's not. But they saw a motor that was just relentless, an engine that never stopped. They saw a guy who could switch onto guards on the perimeter and not get totally embarrassed, which was becoming more and more important in the pick-and-roll heavy NBA. And they saw his second jump.
The second jump. Explain that.
It's his superpower, really. It's the ability to land after a rebound attempt or a block attempt and get back up in the air faster than anyone else around him. Thompson was truly elite at this. It's how he compensated for being 6'9". He was like a pogo stick. So despite all that talk of staying in school, he declares for the 2011 draft. The pull of the league was too strong.
June 23, 2011. This turns out to be a historic night for Canadian basketball.
Absolutely. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who had the 1st and 4th picks, take Kyrie Irving first, and then they take Tristan Thompson 4th overall. And before Anthony Bennett, before Andrew Wiggins, Tristan Thompson was the highest drafted Canadian player ever. And to make it even sweeter, his buddy Khloé Joseph from Findlay Prep went 29th to the Spurs.
So you've got 2 Canadians going in the first round.
Yeah, which was only the second time that it ever happened. The first time was way, way back in 1983. This was the moment that really signaled the arrival of what people started calling the golden generation of Canadian basketball talent.
But then right after this career high, the whole league just shuts down, the 2011 lockout.
Right. And this is a key insight into his early mindset, his professionalism. A lot of rookies in that situation, they might have partied, bought a bunch of cars, or just worked out casually. The league was closed for business. Thompson went back to Austin.
Back to school.
Back to school. He enrolled in classes at the University of Texas. He continued working towards his degree while he was waiting for the owners and players to figure things out. It showed a level of maturity that the Cavs front office absolutely loved. He was already treating his career and his life like a professional.
So the lockout finally ends. He signs his rookie deal in December. And that brings us to Section 3, the technician. He gets into the league, has a solid rookie year, makes the all-rookie second team. But then we hit the statistic that nearly killed his career before it really even got started.
The blood rate. This is wild to look back on. In the 2012-13 season, his second year in the league, Tristan Thompson was getting his shot blocked nearly 17% of the time.
Wait, 17%. So you're saying almost 1 out of every 5 shots he took was getting sent back into his face?
Yes, it was that bad. He was legitimately threatening the all-time NBA record for highest percentage of shots blocked, which was held by a guy named Danny Fortson. Not a record you want.
So why was it happening? I mean, he's incredibly athletic. He's strong. What was the issue?
The issue was that he was a lefty. But he was very, very left-hand dominant. Predictable. He would drive left, he'd turn over his left shoulder in the post, and he would always try to finish low with his left hand. NBA defenders, they figured that out immediately. They would just sit on his left hand, overplay it. He was completely predictable, and at the NBA level, predictable gets you erased at the rim.
Okay, so he recognizes this massive, almost fatal flaw in his game. And he does something radical, something that I still find hard to wrap my head around, the great hand switch.
It's one of the most incredible in-career adjustments I can think of.
Yeah.
In the offseason of 2013, he just decides, okay, I am not a left-hand shooter anymore. I am a righty.
And let's be clear for everyone listening. Players work on their offhand all the time, right? You want to be able to finish with both hands at the rim. But nobody just swaps their dominant shooting hand 3 years into a professional career. It's like a major league pitcher suddenly deciding he's going to throw with his other arm. It doesn't happen.
It is completely unheard of. It requires, on a neurological level, you're rewiring your motor cortex. Muscle memory is such a powerful thing, and he was trying to overwrite 22 years of habit in a single summer. But he did it. He switched his jump shot, his hook shot, his free throws, all to the right hand.
So the big question is, did it actually work? Or was it just kind of a gimmick that looked good on paper?
Well, it kept him from infamy. His block rate dropped from that nearly 17% down to about 15%.
So a 2% improvement? That doesn't sound like a huge leap.
It sounds small, but in the NBA, those margins are everything. It kept him away from that Danny Fortson record. And look, it didn't magically make him a sharpshooter. He was still a pretty awkward scorer, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it made him functional. More importantly, it showed the coaching staff and the front office that he was willing to humble himself and do whatever it took, no matter how drastic, to stay on the floor and be effective.
And staying on the floor, that became his brand. This is really where the whole Iron Man persona begins to take shape, isn't it?
Exactly. It's built right here. In the 2012-13 and 2013-14 seasons, he started all 82 games both years. He wasn't just showing up, he was producing. In that 2012-13 season, the same year he was getting blocked so much, he also set the Cavaliers' franchise record for offensive rebounds with 306.
That's a massive number. Who did he pass for that record?
He passed Zydrunas Ilgauskas, a franchise legend. He was fifth in the entire NBA in offensive boards that year. He essentially realized, okay, I can't shoot like Kevin Love. I don't have post moves like Al Jefferson. So my value is going to be getting the ball back for the guys who can. He monetized pure effort.
Which becomes absolutely crucial as we enter Section 4, the championship era. The summer of 2014 arrives. The landscape of the entire NBA shifts tectonically. LeBron James comes home, and Kevin Love arrives via trade.
And just like that, Tristan Thompson's entire world changes. He goes from being a cornerstone starter on a young developing team to the bunch.
He gets demoted, just flat out.
He becomes the energy guy off the bench, backing up Kevin Love and, initially, Anderson Varejao.
How did he handle that? Because most guys who just started 82 games 2 years in a row would be pouting. There would be trade requests.
He handled it like a true professional. He understood the hierarchy immediately. LeBron was the sun, and everyone else was a planet in orbit. He accepted his role, but then fate intervened. It's the 2015 playoffs, first round against the Boston Celtics.
I remember this, one of the most controversial plays in recent playoff history.
Yeah. Kelly Olynyk gets tangled up with Kevin Love, yanks his arm, and dislocates his shoulder. Love is out for the rest of the playoffs. It was just a devastating blow for Cleveland's title hopes. Everyone thought they were done.
But it opened a door.
Yeah.
Enter Tristan Thompson.
He steps right into that starting lineup, and he becomes completely indispensable. In that 2015 finals run against the Golden State Warriors, he was averaging nearly 11 rebounds a game. But it wasn't just the raw numbers. It was his defensive versatility. This is what made him so valuable. He was switching out onto Steph Curry on the perimeter after a screen, and he was holding his own.
Which is insane for a center. Usually when Steph Curry sees a center switched onto him, it's barbecue chicken. It's an automatic 3 points.
It is. But Thompson had the lateral quickness and the discipline to stay in front of him. The Cavs ended up losing in 6 games that year. But Thompson proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was a championship-caliber center. He made himself essential.
Which led directly to the contract standoff of 2015. This was a masterclass in leverage by him and his agent, wasn't it?
An absolute masterclass by his agent, Rich Paul. Thompson was a restricted free agent. The Cavs were completely capped out. They had LeBron, they had Kyrie, they had just re-signed Kevin Love. They could not replace Tristan Thompson if he left because they just didn't have the cap space to go out and sign another quality starting center. They were trapped.
So Thompson and his camp knew this, and they held out.
They held out hard. For 4 months, it was a stalemate. He missed all of training camp. He missed the entire preseason. He even skipped playing for Team Canada in the FIBA Americas tournament, which you know he loves to do. He was risking game checks to make his point. He bet on himself.
And the narrative at the time, at least among a lot of fans, was that he was being greedy. People were saying $82 million for a bench player who averages 8 points a game. Are you kidding me?
Right. But on October 22, just before the season started, he got it. 5 years, $82 million. And you're right, if you look at it in a vacuum, just based on points per game, it was an overpay. But in the context of that team, it was the cost of keeping a championship window open. If they lose him, they probably don't have the personnel to beat Golden State the next year.
And that investment paid off almost immediately, the 2016 championship.
He was a workhorse again, played all 82 games that season. In March of 2016, he broke the franchise record for consecutive games played, passing Jim Chone's mark of 361. But the real return on investment was the finals, the rematch, the historic 3-1 comeback.
We all remember the iconic moments from that series, right? We remember the block by LeBron on Andre Iguodala. We remember the shot by Kyrie over Steph. But what was the Tristan Thompson moment?
It's not one single moment. It's the cumulative pressure he applied. The Warriors loved to play their death lineup with Draymond Green at center. They wanted to go small and run you off the floor. Most centers couldn't stay on the court against that lineup. They were too slow. Thompson could. And he punished them for it. He feasted on the offensive glass, just demoralizing them.
He essentially averaged a double-double in that series. 10 points, 10 rebounds.
He did all the dirty work. And you just don't beat a 73-win Warriors team without someone who was willing to set the hard screens, dive for the loose balls, and absolutely break the other team's spirit by grabbing an offensive rebound after they just played 23 seconds of perfect defense. That was Tristan Thompson's value. That was the $82 million right there.
He's a champion. He helps end the 52-year championship drought for the city of Cleveland. And he just keeps playing. The streak keeps going. It eventually hits 447 consecutive games.
447 games. It was the longest active streak in the league at the time. It finally ended on April 5, 2017 because of sprained thumb, a fluke injury. But just think about that for a second. Nearly 6 full seasons without missing a single game. In the modern era of load management where star players sit out because it's a Tuesday, that is a unicorn statistic. It's unbelievable.
It really is. It defines the entire first half of his career. That old saying, availability is the best ability. But all empires fall. LeBron leaves Cleveland again in 2018. The Cavs go into a full-scale tank, and we enter Section 5, the journeyman years.
Thompson stays in Cleveland for a bit during the rebuild. He's the veteran presence. And he actually put up some surprisingly good numbers on those bad teams.
Yeah.
He had more offensive freedom. He dropped a career-high 35 points against the Pistons in January 2020. He was even trying to expand his game, shooting a few threes here and there. Averaged a double-double that year.
But then the suitcase era begins, and it gets dizzying trying to keep track. Walk us through the 2020 to 2023 timeline.
Okay, so it starts in November of 2020. He signs with the Boston Celtics. It's a 2-year, $19 million deal. An interesting little side note here. He actually became a U.S. citizen during his time in Boston, so he's a dual citizen now.
And how was the Boston fit for him?
It was okay. Just okay. He averaged about 7 points and 8 rebounds. Solid, but not spectacular. The Celtics were looking for more financial flexibility and a different look. So in August 2021, they traded him to the Sacramento Kings in a 3-team deal.
And in Sacramento, we found a statistical anomaly in our notes that I absolutely love.
Chuckles, yeah.
It is?
It's one of my favorite weird stats. Through the first half of that season with the Kings, Tristan Thompson technically led the entire NBA in three-point percentage.
How is that even possible? We just spent 10 minutes talking about how he had to switch shooting hands because he couldn't shoot.
Small sample size theater. It's the magic of small numbers. He took very, very few threes, and he just happened to make them. So for a stretch of the season, he was shooting 100% from deep. It was a statistical mirage, but it's a funny footnote for a guy whose range was historically limited to, 3 feet from the basket.
Okay, so he's in Sacramento. Then comes February 2022, the month of chaos. If you blinked, you missed a jersey change.
Absolute chaos. February 8th, he gets traded to the Indiana Pacers as part of that massive blockbuster deal that sent Tyrese Halliburton to Indiana and Domantas Sabonis to Sacramento.
Okay, so he's a Pacer now.
For 4 games.
4, that's it.
4 games. He actually plays pretty well. He scores 17 points in one of them, and then on February 17th, the Pacers buy out his contract. They're in full rebuild mode. They don't need a veteran center taking up a roster spot.
So for a moment, he's a free agent. Unemployed.
For about 48 hours, yeah.
Hmm.
On February 19th, he signs with the Chicago Bulls for the rest of the season.
3 teams in less than 2 weeks. That is the life of a journeyman in the NBA. You are literally living out of a suitcase, learning new playbooks on the flight to the next city.
It really is. He finishes out that season with the Bulls, provides some veteran toughness for their playoff push, but it's clear he's not the Iron Man starter anymore. He's a specialist. And then he goes unsigned for the vast majority of the 2022-23 season.
It really looked like it might be over for him. He was doing some TV analyst work for ESPN. He looked and sounded like a guy who had moved on, like he was retired.
It did. But then, right before the 2023 playoffs are about to start, the phone rings.
It's the Los Angeles Lakers.
It's the reunion with LeBron James. The Lakers needed some insurance big men, some veteran bodies for their playoff run. They signed him on April 9th, the last day of the regular season.
And he actually played. This wasn't just one of those Udonis Haslem cheerleading roles from the end of the bench.
No, he gave them real, meaningful minutes in 6 playoff games.
Yeah.
He was out there battling with Nikola Jokic in the Western Conference Finals. And his final moment as a Laker was actually kind of poetic in a way. It's Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. They're losing to Denver. The season is about to end. Thompson cuts to the rim.
And he gets the ball and dunks it on an assist from LeBron James.
Exactly. It felt like the perfect curtain call. The two guys who won that title together in Cleveland, connecting for one last bucket in L.A. A great way to end it.
But he didn't take the bow. He didn't ride off into the sunset. Which brings us to Section 6, the return, the suspension, and the end of an era. He goes back to Cleveland in September 2023.
The prodigal son returns. He signs a 1-year deal. But this return wasn't just a victory lap or a nostalgia tour. He was brought back with a specific purpose, to be the culture setter, the veteran voice in the locker room for a young, exciting Cavs team with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland.
He was supposed to be the adult in the room, and then January 23, 2024, the press release drops from the league office, and it just shattered that entire veteran mentor image.
It was a bombshell. Suspended 25 games without pay for violating the NBNBPA anti-drug program.
Let's get specific here. What did he actually take? Because usually when an older player gets popped for something, people assume it's like a diuretic or something accidental in a supplement.
No, this was not accidental. It's very specific. He tested positive for 2 substances, butymorin and SARM, LGD 43.3.
Okay, for the listener who isn't a chemist or a professional bodybuilder, what are those things?
Butymorin is what's known as a growth hormone secretagogue. In simple terms, it stimulates your body's production of growth hormone. And SARM, LGD 43.3, is a selective androgen receptor modulator. Basically, it's designed to mimic testosterone's muscle building and recovery effects, but without some of the nastier side effects of traditional anabolic steroids.
Okay, so this is heavy-duty stuff. This isn't just a contaminated protein shake. It's strictly performance-enhancing. It's about recovery and muscle retention and strength.
Precisely. It's exactly the kind of stuff you might take when you are a 32-year-old trying to hold on to a body that is breaking down after 13 years of banging in the post with guys who are bigger and younger.
But the irony is just, it's palpable. This is the Iron Man, the guy whose entire reputation was built on playing 447 straight games naturally, the guy who built his career on being durable. Why, at the very end of his career, when he's just a role player, does he turn to doping?
That's the tragedy of it, isn't it? Was it desperation? Was it the fear of irrelevance? Was he just trying to keep up with guys 10 years younger than him? Whatever the reason, it really tarnished that natural durability legacy. It puts a big unfortunate asterisk next to his longevity.
So he served the 25-game suspension, he came back, and here's where it gets confusing again. He actually played really well when he came back from the suspension.
He shot a career-high 60.8% from the field that season. He was efficient, energetic.
Which, ironically, might suggest that the stuff was working.
It suggests exactly that. It suggests the chemistry lab was doing its job pretty effectively, yeah.
He comes back for one final season, the 2024-25 season. The Cavs re-sign him again. But the tank was finally truly empty.
Yeah, the wheels fell off completely. Career lows across the board. 1.7 points per game, 3.4 rebounds. He was playing garbage time minutes at the end of blowouts.
And he went out on a pretty sour note, a moment that I think kind of encapsulates the weirdness of his later years.
The game against the Raptors, February 13th, 2025.
In Toronto, his hometown team is on the other side.
Right. And the Cavs are blowing out the Raptors. The game is over. There are 4 seconds left on the clock. Thompson gets the ball. Now, the unwritten rule of basketball, the code, states, when the game is decided, You just dribble out the clock. You show respect.
You don't rub it in. You don't try to score.
Thompson ignores the code. He drives to the rim and dunks it right as the clock expires.
And the Raptors, understandably, took exception to that.
Oh, they were furious. It sparked a huge on-court argument. Players were shoving. It was just petty. It was such a weird, messy way to fade out. Not with a championship wave to the crowd, but with a meaningless garbage-time dunk in a scuffle.
It feels like a microcosm of the chaos. And speaking of chaos, we absolutely cannot tell the full story of Tristan Thompson without getting into Section 7, the personal life. The tabloids.
We have to navigate this part carefully because it's a web. It is a sprawling, very complex web of relationships that is played out in real time in front of the entire world.
And to be fair to him, before we get into the tabloid headlines, we should talk about his advocacy work, because this is the part of him that is genuinely admirable and often gets completely overshadowed by everything else.
Absolutely. We have to start with his brother, Amari.
Tell us about Amari.
Amari is his youngest brother, and he suffers from Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. It's a rare and very, very severe form of epilepsy. Amari experiences seizures almost daily. He requires constant 247 care.
And Tristan hasn't just, written a check and walked away. He's been deeply involved.
No, he's been hands-on. He founded the Amari Thompson Fund back in 2013 to support families dealing with epilepsy. He works closely with Epilepsy Toronto. He's a global ambassador for the Special Olympics. And there are countless stories from teammates and family about him spending time with Amari, caring for him. It's very clear that he loves his brother deeply and takes that responsibility seriously.
And he also faced a devastating personal tragedy recently as well.
Yes. His mother, Andrea, passed away suddenly from a heart attack in January of 2023. And by all accounts, she was the absolute rock of that family. Thompson posted afterward that his soul is empty. It was a devastating loss, and after her passing, he had to step up and become the primary legal guardian and caregiver for Amari.
So you have this very devoted brother and son, a guy who is clearly carrying a very heavy load at home. And then you have the relationship timeline.
Complexity is the only word for it.
Let's try to map this out chronologically, because it explains why if you ask a serious basketball fan about Tristan Thompson, they'll say rebounding and defense. But if you ask a random person on the street, they'll say Khloé Kardashian.
It's a complete collision of worlds.
Yeah.
So first, there is Jordyn Craig. She is the mother of his first child, his son Prince, who was born in December 2016. But the timeline gets murky immediately because they split up while she was pregnant with their son.
And right around that time, enter Khloé Kardashian in 2016.
And this is the moment that launches him from being an NBA star to a global celebrity. He becomes a regular character on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and then the new show, The Kardashians, they start dating. It's very high profile. She gets pregnant.
And then the first major scandal breaks.
Days, literally days before their daughter True is born in April of 2018. Photos and videos surface of Thompson with other women. It was a massive media firestorm.
But they stayed together through that.
Briefly. They tried to work it out for the sake of their new daughter. But they officially split in February 2019 after another cheating scandal, this time involving Jordyn Woods, who's a very close family friend of the Kardashians.
Okay, so they're done. But then the pandemic happened, and we all did some crazy things during the pandemic.
They did. They ended up quarantining together in 2020 to co-parent True. They reconciled, then they split up again in June 2021. Then they reconciled again in the fall of 2021. They even make the decision to have a second child together, this time via surrogate.
And while that surrogacy process is happening, while their second child is on the way, the Marilee Nichols lawsuit hits the press.
This is the bombshell that changes everything. Marilee Nichols files a paternity suit in 2021. She gives birth to a son, Theo, in December of that year. And the math showed that the child was conceived in March 2021, which is a time when Thompson was publicly back together with Khloé Kardashian.
So let me get this straight. He is publicly apologizing to Khloé for fathering a child with another woman, all while they are privately expecting their own second child via surrogate together.
Exactly that. It is a level of personal chaos that is almost hard to comprehend. Their son, Tatum, was eventually born in July of 2022, and Thompson publicly confirmed he was Theo's father and apologized to Khloé in a public statement in January of 2022.
It is. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it creates this incredible duality that defines his public image.
It does. You can't separate Tristan Thompson, the rebounder, from Tristan Thompson, the tabloid fixture. They are intertwined. And you have to assume the scrutiny he faced off the court had to, at some point, impact the locker room dynamics and his focus on the court.
So let's bring this all together. The outro. The synthesis. We have the Iron Man, who meticulously switched his dominant hand to save his career. We have the tabloid figure who seemed to have almost zero discipline in his personal relationships. We have the veteran leader who gets suspended for doping at the end of his career.
It's a legacy of extreme, jarring contrast. On the basketball court, for the vast majority of his career, he was defined by one word: availability.
Wow.
He got paid $82 million because you could count on him to be there every single night, fighting for every loose ball. He was the ultimate safety net for LeBron James and those Cavs teams.
But off the court.
He was the opposite of a safety net. He was volatility. He was unpredictable. He was chaos.
So what is the takeaway for you, the listener? We've looked at the stats, the scandals, the science of the hand switch. What does it all mean?
I think it's about the fragility of reputation, and it's about the definition of value. For 10 years, Tristan Thompson built a brand on reliability, grit, hard work, unsexy but dependable. But the decision-making, both in his personal life and with that final PED suspension, it eroded that trust. It overwrote the brand he had built. It proves that durability can build you a legend, but it's judgment that preserves it.
That's a really powerful distinction. Durability builds it, judgment preserves it.
Exactly. He will always be a champion. No one can ever take that 2016 ring away from him. But he won't be remembered just as a champion. He'll be remembered as this incredibly complex, messy, and contradictory figure who did whatever it took to stay on the court, even if he couldn't always keep it together off of it.
And here is a final provocative thought for you to chew on. We marveled at him switching his shooting hand. A radical physical adjustment to solve a physical problem. It showed immense self-awareness and the ability to change a fundamental habit for the greater good of his game. But I wonder, if he had applied that same level of radical self-analysis, that same discipline, to his decision-making off the court earlier in his career, would we be talking about a potential Hall of Famer today? Or at the very least, a beloved Cleveland icon, rather than just a very wealthy, very famous, and very, very complicated journeyman?
That is the question that'll hang over his jersey forever.
Thanks for diving deep with us today on the complex career of Tristan Thompson. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.